So I just read through God of High School, and I must say, the beginning is a little rough, but overall the story is actually a pretty good one. It is nowhere near the level of Tower of God in my opinion, but it is still really good, and the characters get a lot better. The anime didn't do the series justice, and I just think that it's because they didn't know how to squeeze 112 chapters into 13 episodes, which made the adaptation kind of bad. It looked really good, don't get me wrong, but
they rushed through a lot of the story stuff, making it a jumbled mess, leaving us with not really much to care about in any of the characters, but the actual webtoon does a really good job at writing characters, and I actually really love the characters in God of High School. Currently, there is one problem with God of High School, that it gets better as time goes on, but it's still somewhat of a problem to this day, and that is the pacing. Its pacing is way too fast, that sometimes I find it hard to keep up with what is going on in the story at the moment, like with the arc immediately following the anime. Spoilers by the way, that pacing was way too fast. It was basically Mori goes to the monster world to get his powers and memories back, and his team gets separated and they fight giant monsters and gods, and Mori gets his memories back, and that is what the arc felt like. I know there was a lot more to the arc, but it was so fast paced that it was pretty hard to keep up with. But actually going through and reading God of High School all the way through, I can say one thing's for sure, and that's the pacing gets way better later on, and although it is still fast paced, it is now easily able to be kept up with, and I can actually remember the finer details of each arc, instead of only remembering the baseline stuff. It feels as though God of High School will be ending soon. I can't say exactly when, but with how the story currently feels, and how all the characters have pretty much completed their individual arcs, I feel as though the story will be coming to an end in like 20 or 30 chapters, but I can't say that for sure. It's just a hunch, but if it does end, then God of High School was really fun to read, and although it is nowhere near the level of Tower of God, it is still super good and a super fun read. I do want to talk about the anime for a little bit before moving on to other things. The anime is high quality in a lot of aspects, like its art and animation and music, but as I stated before, the anime rushed a lot of things and made the story not so much confusing but rushed, and never gave you time to really grow to know the characters and their motivations. Like sure, they told us what Mori, Day, and Mira wanted, but they never really did a good job at showing it, and as a result, it led me to not really care about the characters so much until I read the webtoon, and I think the fact that they tried to adapt 112 chapters into 13 episodes is a big reason as to why the anime feels so rushed, even more so than the actual fast-paced webtoon. Before I start to talk about the good stuff, there is one more issue I want to talk about. It isn't a big issue, but it does get resolved pretty quickly. But Jin Mori is way too strong in the early parts of the story in comparison to everyone else, and it is actually annoying, especially when watching Day and Mira fight. They're supposed to be the other two main characters alongside Mori, but for the most part of like the first 200 chapters, it feels like they just can't fight at all, despite the fact that we know they're strong. It just feels like the story in the early stages relied so much on Mori coming to save the day instead of everyone else being able to handle themselves. Now, there are a lot of shows and comics that do something similar where the main character is way stronger than everyone else, but in those stories, for instance like One Piece, the other Straw Hats can handle themselves in a fight, but Luffy is just stronger, and he is the one who takes on the main villain of the arc. But in God of High School in the early stages, it just felt like none of the other characters could fight at all, and Mori was the be-all and end-all. If he wasn't around, it was a guaranteed loss, and that annoyed the hell out of me, because the problem was fixed right around where the best parts of the story were rolling through, which is the section before Ragnarok, where Mori wasn't even in the story for like 50 chapters, and it was just Day and Mira and Mori's weaker clone, so it forced everybody to get stronger, and finally made the fights entertaining, because we knew Mori isn't just going to swoop in and save the day. Now Mira and Day need to use their own strength to win each, which in the end backfired for both of them, but that's what made this story so awesome, because despite the fact that Mira and Day have gotten stronger, they were still not strong enough to protect each other and fight Nox. God of High School actually has some amazing characters. The three main characters are all tragic, and a lot of the side characters have pretty insane backstories as well. The character writing in God of High School is amazing. At the start, it was a little rough and slow going, but where we currently are, all the characters, main and side, are amazing, and their motivations are super interesting and cool. Mira Yu is an amazing and tragic character, and she is also one of the three main characters, and out of the main characters, she is by far the most tragic character of the bunch. She was always the weakest of her friends, and so she wanted to get stronger in order to protect them, but in order for her to achieve that strength, she had to lose everything. Mira is insanely strong nowadays, but she got there by losing her right arm and the love of her life, and her memories, and for 17 years, she was manipulated and controlled by the actions of Menda, but it was Day who was able to save her from that tragedy because of his strong feelings for her. But even after she got her memories back, she still loses one more thing, her eyesight. Mira truly is a tragic character, but also an amazingly written character. Mubong Park is another interesting character because he is all about helping humanity to grow and become stronger and be able to keep up with the gods and the demons in a fight, and no longer be the weakest of the three. But the way he went about it was all wrong. He decided to betray one of the strongest humans ever just because that person's grandson is a god and demon, but that god was the main reason why humanity was even survived Ragnarok in the first place. But Mubong Park couldn't trust any of the gods, so he felt like he had to betray Mori and his friends, but in the end, that backfired on him, and although now, 17 years later, humans are stronger, there is a huge threat that they can't fight, and Mori may not be able to handle that threat anymore either. Mubong is definitely a selfish person. who claims to care about humanity, but time and time again proves that he doesn't care about anyone without power. Then they hit us with his backstory right when we think he's the biggest piece of shit, and it sort of changes the way we see him. It doesn't justify his actions, but it does allow us to understand why he is the way he is, and why he did all the stuff he did. Jin Mori, the protagonist, is a super interesting character. He actually has 3 forms and personalities throughout the series: Jin Mori, Jetchen Daisong, and Mori Den. All of these are the same person, but not the same person at the same time. And the way he always tries to save his friends and other people, no matter what form he's in, is super interesting. Jin Mori is a character who has been betrayed time and time again, in the past as Jetchen Daisong, as well as in the present as Mori Jin. His life has been a lot of betrayal, but he has never let that give up on the people, despite being betrayed over and over. The art in God of High School is absolutely amazing. It actually looks really good. Tower of God had a rough start on that, but then got amazing later on. But God of High School has been consistent all the way through, and it is amazing. Now, I said consistent, but it has improved. What I meant was that it was already really good at the start, and only got way better as time went on. Whereas Tower of God went from shit to amazing. God of High School overall has a very consistent webcomic, and there's no problem with that. Actually, it is a good thing. That means that there's been no negative. The story of God of High School is sort of like the story of Sun Wukong, which is interesting because they were first mentioned in the story. It actually surprised me, but it was super cool at the same time. The story is really fast paced, so much so that some of the points it actually really hard to keep track of, but the story is good and the fights are awesome and the characters are interesting. I've heard the term the big 3 used in anime when referring to One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, but I've also heard it used in webtoons when referring to Tower of God, God of High School, and Noblesse. And I can definitely see why both Tower of God and God of High School are amazing stories, with interesting and expansive worlds, with amazing characters that just help the world building that much better. Overall, God of High School wasn't as good as Tower of God, but it was still an amazing story, and I highly recommend it because the story was super interesting and fun.